Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And it's Thursday, it's February 1st. This will be our chart lesson for today. And this is going to wrap it up for the week. No chart lessons on Friday. So, um, interesting day. Really, this is a range day, where prices remain within the overnight highs and lows. And generally, that's a range day. The deal here is the range is so big that you really got a downtrend and an uptrend and then started another downtrend um, into the 2 o'clock hour that really headed back to the lows again. So this was just a range day. You're steadily back and forth above and below the EMA. So, but there's a nice trend down, a nice trend up, another nice trend down. So it's really, even though it's a range day, the range is just so wide that the price is still trended a couple of different directions, but they trended. So, and that's what prices do. They just, when you get in the range, you got support that holds at the top at some location, support that holds at the bottom, and prices just go back and forth between the resistance area and the support area, and that's what you get with a range day. So let's back out, talk about the trades, and we'll wrap the week up. So prices were just moving rather sideways here when I came in, and notice what's going on. You're working down, but you had a first entry, and you were working on if you count this as you pull back, you go up once, you go up twice, it fails. That's like a failed second entry long. It's also we went a little bit lower here, so it's like a little breakout. But there's also a little two-legged move in there, a hidden second entry. But anyway, I like this because it's a double test of the previous high. It's two more tries to go high that fail. Since it's a trap, it doesn't really matter about this signal bar, and you see what happens. It just takes off. And I would have measured this first leg here down, and I'd look for something very similar to that on the way down. And you can see we went a little bit further before we bounced, and then we made a couple of more pushes down, and then we reversed. And so this is a really strong downtrend. Prices couldn't even get back to the EMA. Even here, they didn't get back to the EMA, and that's a pretty strong trend. So, but this, if you catch this one trade, you got a nice move down, and you might have just stayed with it. But you really get a repeat pattern right here. This is the same pattern as this, except it's a little bit larger than this one. This one's a little tighter, but you can see you try to go up twice, you fail, and you get a bearish bar there. Just go short below that. Your stop actually has to go above the green, the bar with a little green in it, because that's the swing high. But this is really your trigger bar, signal bar, and look at it go. Another easy trade where you could get several points out of it. Then it bounces. You got a break and a couple of moves down. You actually got a break up here, another break here. But sometimes these breaks don't, you can ignore them if they're in the overnight. So this thing could have continued, but we actually reverse here and head the other way. And notice what happens. You got a new low, so first entry, then you get a second leg up, a second entry short, and it actually breaks below this little bar, then turns and goes higher. I like going long on a buy stop right there, and it's a fairly, there's only 3 or 4 ticks in there that you're going to be risking, and it's a trap. It's a failed second entry. I'd like for it to be closer to the EMA, but that's a pretty strong trend on a bounce, and so you're probably not going to get back to the EMA until you make another move up. And so that turns out to be, and it actually comes back one more time. I don't think I would risk with that being the break of the trend line, because it may just go one more tick and turn down, because we are a little ways away from the EMA. So I wouldn't risk entering right there. And of course, you push up, you come back, you get a first entry, you get a second entry. I'm not crazy about this one. You're just kind of going sideways. That's almost a true doji. This one's bearish, but it's not really perfect, and it's kind of an inside bar. You didn't break higher. But then you push right on through the EMA pullback and get a really bearish bar. I like entering there. That's really like 2 legs down, so that's close enough to be a reversal pattern. I like going short right there, and you did get a break. And so the reason I made this one green is because you've already had a close outside. Your low is right there, and it may go 1 or 2 ticks. This one went enough. You actually had a tick or two to spare before it bounced. But you just never know. So that one's a little bit risky right there. I didn't feel comfortable entering there, to be honest with you, making that one red. But if you'd had a little more room there, I like that one. But with that being the break of this little short-term channel, if you draw your other one, pull it over, you can see it fits nicely. And but you can see you don't have very far to go, so it might have only gone one tick instead of going enough to get you out, and then it bounces and you get burned. So you got to be careful there. This will be the same thing in the reverse here. I'll talk about that in a minute. And so now you got your break, new low, and so it's heading the other way, and you got a new trend line. Same thing, it pushes through, pulls back, gives that little failure, and then goes higher. Here you got enough room to get out, so I like that one. You actually get a failed second entry long after two legs up here. So you really could argue for this one, and it would have worked. It's really close to that high again, and there's two matching highs. So I wasn't crazy about it. You could probably argue for it to be green. I'm not going to mark it, but it's just like this one coming down, really. You know, you could argue for it to be green. But you're taking a chance because it could go one tick like it did and turn down and not make that next push up. And then if it had just turned down right there, you'd have got burned. And that's what you don't want to happen. Fortunately, this one went on up high enough and it would have worked. So then you come back, first entry, pull back second entry. There's second entry long here off the trend line, but you don't really have a close outside and a new low. It pushes up, pulls back, gives you a higher low here, but again, you're right into this resistance that's coming across here, and it's always risky to be entering there. You can see that resistance. That's where I would have that line drawn right there. And you just don't have room to get out before that. So I don't like going long there. If you went long when that ended as a doji, I would exit. This looks like a confirmation of the trend line, but we didn't get back up on this side. And so that one's a little, you know, this one's, you got to be worried about that one right there. So anyway, it's a second entry long. It's a real neutral bar, but I like this one anyway because it's a trap to the long side. I guarantee you, people trying to get long into that resistance, and boom, look at it, how it shoots down. You can tell they trapped people and the longs had to exit. Then it bounces. You make a new low here, so now you got two legs down, and a lot of times that's the middle of a pattern. So first of all, I would measure that. And when we went higher here, I'd look for at least a measured move there. And you can see we got up there about to that, pushed a little higher, and then sold off. And so that would have been a great target. Get that out of the way. So when you get that failed second entry long, and look what I did again here. I just copied this line and I moved it over equal distance, and it works out perfect. I've seen this a couple of times lately. You don't see this all the time, but I've seen it a couple of times lately. And so you always want to try it and just see if it works. When it starts heading lower, find your equal distance and put your line there and see what happens. So maybe this is really the range, and let's see if there's a midline that fits in there. So that does fit in there pretty well. You can see that midline, and so maybe it looks more like this than the way I originally had it. So as you get more price action, you always got to recheck things, but that looks valid to me. So this is really your channel, and you finally get a close outside this trend line here, move to a new high, and then it sells off again. About a measured move on its move higher too. So this was a nice entry. You might have considered entering here. I think there's enough room to get out right here. So you might have entered here. I don't think the fact that it came back and you got a break here, I don't think I would have entered there. Not with two dojis in a row, and it's just not a very good setup. It turns out to work, but anytime you start making these higher lows every time, even though it's flat up here, eventually you're probably going to break higher. So you probably could argue for both of these to be green based on that fact. They're a little risky though, because it may go just enough to make its new high and then sell off. In this case, you did know your measured move was up here, or you should have, based on the way I showed you. So that might have given you a little That might have given you enough, especially the way this is crawling off this line all the way up. That might have given you enough, enough courage to say, hey, I probably want to stay with this, or enough information is really what I should say, not courage. Um, you need enough information to tell you that, hey, we're probably going higher here. And these higher lows, every time it comes back, it makes a higher low. That's telling you that we're probably going to break higher. You don't know how high it will go, but you do know where a measured move is. And so that's doesn't mean you're going to get there though. So, but that is another clue to say, hey, we're probably going to break higher and run up here and try to make a measured leg up. And that's exactly what happened. We actually went a little further. So, um, notice what happens. You have your, you basically have a double bottom here. So you can count that like a new low. So first entry, second entry, and so that's a failed second entry short. You're so far away from the EMA. It is the first break of this little short-term trend line, trend channel right here. So you're probably going to push up to a new high. But this is really risky, especially it doesn't matter about your signal bar. It would have been above that one. Your stop has to go below this bar. It would have worked. I don't think I'd take that one. I marked it because it is a failed second entry short. But look how long and how far we've been away from the EMA. It's a little bit risky. And then, of course, we just start going sideways here. And you finally get a double test. You're not back to this trend line, but you've already had a break too, so you got to be real careful. So you really want to double test and room to get out before here. And notice you make that low, then you test it once, you test it twice, little bitty bar. So that's low risk. And notice it does try to come back again, but it would have worked. And when you made this other attempt, it's you're making now you've got two more tries to go lower from this double bottom. You got another double bottom and another fairly bullish bar. So I like adding on there. And if you didn't get in here, definitely get in here. Just make sure you got enough room to get out. And if you do, take one or both of those. And look what happens. It pushes out the upper side. It fails. Tries to go higher again, and then it tries to go higher a third time. And even though it didn't break higher right there, when it turned and went out the other side, I like going short right there. At the very least, just to ride it back to here or the trend line, but it may be a reversal because you've had a break and a new high, and so you don't know that it's going to do this, but you may get a nice move down. And man, look at that. Pulls back, gives you the true failed second entry long. There's your high, first entry, second entry, and it is right off that trend line. That's really bearish right there. I like going short. Really, your stop has to go above that bar, but that's really the trigger bar. I really wouldn't really have a problem going short below that bar because that's a strong move, and it is. If you drew this trend line kind of off the lows here, I think I originally had it just a little steeper than that. Because I had it touching these, but I ended up adjusting a little bit as it came on down. And you get another, notice what happens. You get a first entry, second entry, but now you got to go long right into a double bottom. It does tick a little lower, so it's kind of like a breakout pull back short. So you could really argue to go short there. I think it's risky. We'll make it green. But, I just think you're better off to skip that one. You're starting to get late in the day when you have a lot of fake outs and so forth. And if you did enter there, there's your first leg. There's your second leg, so that gives you a target. And look, we came within a couple of ticks of that, and then it takes off. That's close enough. If you back out here, you can see there's been some support right across that level all day, really. Bounces. First entry short, second entry short. So that's your failed second entry short. Nice bullish bar right at that trend line. I like going long there. Notice that you never came back and tested that, so prices are probably going to attempt it. And then you get a little breakout. Pull back one more try and look how the trend line's holding again. I like adding on right there. And if you didn't get in here, definitely get in here because now you're You're making those higher lows and higher highs, and you may be coming back to test this breakout area. Doesn't quite get there. It's an easy scalp, and but that takes you into the 2 o'clock hour. This would have been a great short if it'd been a little better signal bar. Of course, it's after 2 o'clock, uh, and I probably would have liked entering right there. It didn't break higher, but it's a lower high, and you could have treated that like a failed second entry long. And look at that, another nice move down. So yeah, it was a really good trading day. In the end, like I said, it was just a range day. You can see the highs up here, the lows down here. But we spent most of the regular trading session trending up. And where did we end up closing? We ended up closing, I think, down a little bit for the day because we closed up here yesterday, and today we closed down here. So we closed down a little bit. We've taken the rest of it back during the overnight. But this was a range day. And you needed to be careful trading it both ways, except when it's in the range or when it's going sideways steadily. I mean, really, I would trade this to the downside, and I'd trade this mostly to the upside, especially from here on. When you're right in this area right here, this is about a 50% move of this whole move here coming back. And so this is a place you really have to watch that it might make another leg down like this one. In other words, that's your first leg down, and then you get about a 50% correction, and then from that high, you'd be worried about your next leg down. And if it does, I mean, it's putting us right back at 2,800 again, which it wouldn't surprise me to come back and test that, because when we broke through originally, we never really have come back and tested it. And generally, you'll work around those levels consistently for a while. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is going to wrap up the week. We'll be back again to do it Monday, but I'm done for the day. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.